What if I told you there was a $1 billion industry that had 460,000 workers? However, these workers weren't paid. That is the reality of the NCAA. It has been a debate over many decades on whether college athletes should be paid or should not be paid. I mean, it is true that the athletes provide the service of the entertainment to the $1 billion industry of the NCAA, but not all sports are profitable, so who should get paid here? Should the athletes get paid or should they not get paid? I mean, millions of Americans tune in to watch college football and college basketball each year. The NCAA also provides jobs to the TV networks who cover the NCAA. The NCAA as a business themselves, and the universities have to pay all their athletic departments. Despite the large following and attraction that the NCAA brings, these student athletes should still not be paid. These student athletes should not be compensated in order to maintain the true term of the student athlete narrative that the NCAA prides themselves on. Today, we will discuss how not all sports are profitable, some Title IX issues, and how student athletes can't truly be student athletes if they're getting paid. I mean, it is true that men's football and college men's basketball are the only sports that are profitable for most universities. Not baseball, not lacrosse, not wrestling, not cross country, not field hockey. None of the other sports end up being possible. So if they're not profitable, how is it possible to pay these athletes and not the other ones? I mean, should all sports get paid? What is the point for universities to even have these non-profitable sports if all they do is cost the money? How do you determine the worth between the profitable and non-profitable sports? Are they different? Are they the same? Do you just even it out across the board and pay everyone the same across the line? And then how do the star players react to that? You're telling me the star player gets to make the same as the worst player on the baseball lacrosse team that no one's ever heard of? So how does that make the star player feel? Is it fair to them? Are any of these scenarios fair to anyone? The answer is no. No scenario can be fair to anyone, and no one can truly win or be happy from paying college athletes. In addition to not paying college athletes due to some sports not being profitable, there's also a law that forces men and women to be equally compensated for their activities. That is our old friend, Title IX. So for those of you who don't know what Title IX is, Title IX basically means men and women have to be given the same opportunities and compensated fairly and equally with whatever opportunities they pursue. So in the example of college sports, in order to be competitive, universities have to offer athletes scholarships to compete at the Division I level. So if we take into account the two profitable sports we have, men's football and men's basketball, that's around 72 plus athletes on scholarships. And then you have to offer 72 plus women sports scholarships. That's around 4 or 5 women's sports that all have to pay with their coaches, facilities, and other expenses. Then you have to take into account all the men's sports that aren't profitable too, like men's baseball, lacrosse, wrestling, rowing, cross country, etc. Then you have to add even more women's sports. So in total, most universities on average in Division I have around 20 sports, and only 2 of which are profitable, and 18 are not profitable. And all these unprofitable sports, you still got to pay coaches, you got to pay for the athletic facilities, and you have to deal with all the other expenses you have to deal for. So how do these unprofitable sports end up being paid for? The answer is quite simple. These profitable sports help pay for these unprofitable sports. So if they're not making any money, and then they have to be paid accordingly, according to Title IX. So if you start paying these profitable sports, you have to pay all these unprofitable sports as well. And if universities don't pay everyone fairly across all sports, then there's going to be lawsuits against them. And I don't think the universities want lawsuits against them. And it's also important to note that football makes exponentially more money than men's basketball at nearly every university, even Syracuse. Men's football makes significantly more money than men's basketball, even though we were known as a basketball school. And it's just a fact. Football runs America, so you have to cater to your football players, technically. And again, why is it fair that the star quarterback gets to be paid the same as the worst player on his own team or the worst player on another team, when the star player is the one that generates the millions of dollars of revenue for the university and the NCAA? And the answer is quite simple, why you shouldn't pay these college athletes. The university simply doesn't have the funds to do so. I mean, you can't have 2 profitable sports and 18 unprofitable sports and still pay everyone. You run out of money. It's just not possible. In addition to Title IX issues, this also eliminates the vision that the NCAA has of the term student athlete. I mean, if you think about it, if you start paying college athletes, that grants the university the right as an employer. So does that mean the university gets to fire these players if they underperform, or rescind their scholarship if they underperform? You're giving the universities this power, and I don't think we want that. And if that's the case as well, these athletes are not going to be focusing on their academics. They're going to be focusing on their sport, like, oh my God, I got to improve my performance, or I might lose my scholarship, or get kicked out off the team. So if they focus on their sports more than athletics, then they're also going to be getting a contract to do so. And since all these college athletes now are going to have contracts, they're going to be allowed to unionize. And if they unionize, there's going to be some labor issues that we see in professional levels, such as the NFLPA, the Players Association, and the NFL going against it on issues. That could be the same thing in college sports. And then also, once you start paying college athletes, that kind of eliminates the amateurism aspect of college sports, and that makes them technically professional. And if that's the case, what's the star players' incentive that make the university and NCAA millions of dollars to go to college and go to the professional level? Like, why would the star player play in a professional level but not get paid nearly as much as another level? So the NCAA could lose millions of dollars because of this. And there's also other lurking variables out there that result from paying college athletes. Like, do some of the really not profitable sports get cut as a result? And then these schools also start favoring athletics over academics. I mean, look at a typical student. You know, most students take student loans, so then they're going to be in debt for the next 20 years while they still work on campus, and they're making a minimum wage job, and then they can also pursue unpaid internships, unpaid research opportunities, and they're getting paid less than these college athletes. Because think about this, these college athletes get a full scholarship and get paid, while other students are grinding their butts off and in debt for 20 years after they leave college, and are doing all this and doing all these other opportunities and still coming out in a worse shape than sports. I mean, if that's the case, I'm going to teach my kids only sports and not school, because why would I care about teaching them school when they're just going to get a degree through sports anyway? Because the end goal is just to get a degree, because that's all you need, really. So if that's the case, I'll just teach my kids these sports, because they'll get the same end goal: full scholarship, still get a degree, and get paid to do so. And why would I make them want to try and learn everything about school when they'll be in debt for 20 years and work even harder than most athletes? Like, that just doesn't make sense. And if that's the case, then you're pretty much eliminating the narrative of this term student athlete. So today we discussed how not all sports are profitable, some Title IX issues with paying college athletes, and how student athletes can't truly be student athletes once you start paying them. All in all, this has been a large debate that has spanned over many decades, and these college athletes should not be paid. The cons of paying college athletes outweigh the pros of paying college athletes. Therefore, college athletes should not be